Hello there, beautiful internet and you fantastic creatures of the beyond. I have missed you all. Now, today we're going to have that weird conversation about you guys not having free will. And I can already hear you screeching at me. It's like, what do you mean we do not have free will? I chose to do things. Well, interestingly enough, in the 1980s, there have been some experiments done by a guy called Benjamin Lebet, and he used an EEG to measure the time it takes for us to take a decision in our brain. And he determined that it is around 300 milliseconds from our subconscious to our conscious mind to travel that information in order to make a body part move, for example. And of course, there have been other experiments done since then to better flesh out this theory, because it's not set in stone. Obviously, there are variations to this time. But more or less, if you really think about it, you can't think of something that you have not observed or learned in your lifetime. For example, you can't see a color that you have never seen in your life. You can't imagine it because, first of all, your brain is formed in such a way that you can only perceive combinations of colors that your eye allows. And there are some experiments that measured these values, because our eyes can see from a very short spectrum on the light scale. We cannot see, for example, gamma or radio waves. But for example, if you take a remote control and you put it in front of your phone camera and you try to press on any button of the remote, you will see that the LED will light up on the camera, but you will not perceive it with your open eyes. And that is because the waves that it emits, the light waves, are not perceivable by our own eyes. And mainly this is a physical limitation, because we have receptors called opposing receptors. Basically, we see three types of light: red, green, and blue. But we kind of have pairs. For example, you have pairs between green and red, and blue and yellow, and then black and white. And you can't really see, for example, blue and yellow at the same time, because one of the receptor has to be disabled in your eye in order to perceive that color. It's a bit strange. And obviously you can see both colors side by side, but when they're overlapping, it's very difficult for your eye to perceive them. But it is possible for the brain to be tricked into seeing these impossible colors. And it takes a bit of concentration. It's not an exact science. But yeah, it's a bit weird. But let's get back on track with the fact that we have no free will. And in a way, what we say it's free will, it's difficult to define in a way, because every information you have learned is stored in your brain. Your brain constantly records everything around you in the subconscious. Well, we say subconscious, but obviously the subconscious is parts of your brain that are not directly related to your frontal lobes, that where usually empathy, emotions, and reason happen, you know? But that information is stored in there, and we're kind of like AI in a sense, because we access this database and we filter it through our frontal lobes, and then we can kind of organize it in a way. The point is that your brain has developed or has evolved in such a sophisticated way that you have preferences. So if you would be put in front of choosing between option A and option B and having to only choose one option, you will choose the most favorable option to you. But what do I mean by that? Favorable means the most known option to you. So if, for example, you have grown up to like a specific fruit, and after some time you stopped eating that fruit, and now that you're put in front of choosing between two fruits, your brain will automatically default to your favorite fruit. It will not be a conscious decision. It's more like an impulse, but it is a sophisticated impulse. And this makes you to default to certain things that you have grown up around. And why do I talk about this? Well, in a way, it kind of defines how we create our art. We choose things that are very familiar to us, but familiar in a very personal matter. So, for example, if you grew up with your parents, maybe one of the parents is your favorite. So, in that way, you would look to create art more on the male or female side of the sexes, you know? Or you can look for a partner that more resembles the parent that you are more akin to. I know, it's a bit messed up, but that is how our brains work. This is an evolutionary trait, in a way. And it's freaky, but that doesn't mean that we are totally out of control. Like, sure, things that we've grown around since we were small were never in our control. We could never choose to which school we went or what type of food we were supposed to eat, things like that. And our brain needed to work like that, to be given a set of commands in order to kind of refine the mechanisms of how we make decisions later on. And we put decisions in quotes at this point. But the fact that our subconscious kind of dictates our wants and needs, we're kind of set up into two situations. We can either choose to do something that we are more akin to, or we are being forced to do it. So these are kind of the only situations where we are obviously out of control. Now, what I think we do have under our control is our curiosity. So if we understand that the information around us that we are constantly collecting is something that impacts us in the way we think and the way we develop, maybe we can be a bit more curious to go towards the information that is more constructive for us. So, for example, hanging around people that inspire us instead of hanging with toxic people that always make us feel, I don't know, little or lonely or things like that, or unappreciated. And in a way, this is our ability to put things in perspective. And we can choose to direct this perspective through our curiosity mainly to get better outcomes. And in a way, for example, you can look at art that inspires you, but of course you have been inspired before you have seen that art. So it's a series of events that link into one another. And in a way, it's still out of our control, but this illusion that we have free will and that we can still kind of direct our thoughts and our feelings help us become inventive. And it also helps us to stay healthy, because imagine being always a downer and thinking, what's the point? Nothing is in our control, blah, 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 blah. You know, it will destroy us from a psychological point of view. But also being aware of it at some level can help us trick or tweak our mind in such a way that we focus on the more positive elements in our life that can impact us and can help us in the long run. So yeah, that's my weird take on the absence of free will. Still, your thoughts are your own, nobody's gonna take them. You are the architect of your own life in a way. So embrace it for what it is. Okay guys, stay awesome. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye 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 bye.